dear students. I am Dr. Shikha Pandey, Associate Professor from the Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So, in the lecture series of this environmental studies, we are going to discuss the topic of hazardous waste management and handling rule 1989. That has been that has been coming from the module number 4, and this is the fourth topic from this module 4. And now let's discuss about the hazardous waste management and their handling rules made in India. So first we will discuss about the hazardous waste. Like, hazardous waste was first regulated in 1989 through Hazardous Waste Management Handling Rules 1989. So first time this term has been regulated in India in the year 1989. That's why this rule is named as Waste Management and Handling Rules 1989. So in this rule, the management of hazardous waste has been discussed, and its proper handling of this hazardous waste has been discussed. So the problem associated with hazardous waste is that its proper management and its proper handling is very important in case of this hazardous waste, because hazardous waste is too much dangerous for the human being and human life and earth life. So its proper handling and management is quite important in case of everything, so that this rule has been made for its improper handling and management. Then this rule has been subsequently amended in the year 2008 to incorporate Basel Convention provision, and last recently again it has been amended in the year 2016. As we have already discussed in the previous classes, that all laws has been made in India for the protection of environment and its people. But time to time, when some important changes are there, government has made some amendment. So in case of this amendment, in views of this amendment, this hazardous waste management rule has been amended by 2 times. First one is in the year 2008. 2008 they have done amendment to incorporate the Basel Convention provisions. And lastly, in the recent year 2016, again it has been amendment to add something into the laws. Time to time, government has given provision to regulate or to revise the laws that has been present in our Constitution of India, because environment is day by day changing. So that government is also amending, or government is also adding something new into that rules. That's why some amendment is there for every rules associated with the environment, so that this hazardous waste management and handling rule is there, that is in the year 1989, and it has been amended by 2 times. First one is in the year 2008. In this time, they have added the provision has been given in the Basel Convention, and then it has been again updated in the year 2016. So, and now comes to this hazardous waste is regulated by the following agencies in India. Following agency in India have taken care of this hazardous waste management. This hazardous waste is regulated by the following agencies in India. Many agency has been in India is regulating the wastes of this related with this hazardous. But now in India, they have made rules by the first one is the MOEF, that is Ministry of Forest and Climate Change. Second one is the CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board, and next is the SPCB, that is State Pollution Control Board, and then Pollution Control Committee. So all these 4 members, all these 4 agencies that are regulating, that are incorporating, and or we can say that they are taking care of these laws related with this hazardous waste management. So all together, all these four agency is doing the amendment in this law, or they will add something in this law, or they will make rules for these laws. That's why this hazardous waste management is very much important, because hazardous waste is related with is very much all those waste that are very much dangerous for the human life and earth life. That's why this hazardous waste management rule is there. Now comes to the basic definition and the meaning of this hazardous waste. So first of all, the waste means those materials that are not products or byproducts for which the generator has no further use for the purpose of production, transformation or consumption. Means waste are those materials that are not being much useful for any of the purpose production, transformation, or consumption. So in this kind, this waste can be called as hazardous waste. Means they are not much useful, and that is not a product or byproduct for which the generator has no further use for the purpose of production, transformation, or any consumption. So, and next, the basic definition, the basic meaning. This is about the waste. Like waste is anything that are not a product or byproduct, and they are a generator, and they are not no further uses there for the purpose of production, transformation, or any consumption. So these kind of things are called as waste. And hazardous waste means any waste which, by the reason of characteristics, are their main characteristics are physical, chemical, biological, reactive waste, toxic, flammable, explosive, or corrosive, that can cause danger or likely to cause danger to health or environment, whether alone or in contact with the other waste or substances. So this kind of waste is called as hazardous waste. Means those waste that having possesses the characteristics of highly reactive, toxic, flammable, explosive, or corrosive, and that can causes danger to likely and danger to health and environment, whether in alone or in contact with the other waste or substances. So this kind of waste is called as hazardous waste. Means those waste that is too much dangerous. Means anything that will having these kind of characteristics, these kind of features comes under the category of hazardous waste. Means by the characteristics, the following characteristics, any waste posing the following characteristics, means physical, chemical, biological characteristics, means they are, maybe it is very reactive or toxic, or it is flammable, explosive, or corrosive, that can causes danger or is likely to cause danger to health or environment, whether alone or in contact with other waste or any substances, are called as hazardous waste. Those waste that are too much dangerous, too much harmful, and they are the waste, they are like highly reactive, toxic, flammable, explosive, or highly corrosive, and that is very much dangerous. They will be very much dangerous alone, or when they will come in contact with other wastes, that are called as hazardous waste. Now comes to the next thing, that is about the examples of hazardous waste. Which things we say that this comes under the category of hazardous waste. So first one example is the paints and solvents. Paints and solvents. So because that will contain some highly toxic chemicals, and that is very much reactive chemicals. Sometimes they are highly flammable, sometimes they are corrosive, they can cause corrosion. So any characteristics, if anything have these four characteristics, either it is highly reactive, it is highly ignitable, it is corrosive, it is toxic, comes under the category of solid waste, hazardous waste. So these are some examples of hazardous waste. First one is the paints and solvents. These will also contains these kind of characteristics. That's why we call them as a hazardous waste. Like next one is the automotive waste. Those waste that is used in motor oil, antifreeze, etc. Pesticides like insecticide, herbicides, fungicides, etc. Mercury containing waste like thermometers, switches, fluorescent lighting, etc. Means those waste that will contain mercury, like a thermometer will contain mercury, switches, some switches used in our household have mercury content, fluorescent lamps and lightnings will have some hazardous chemicals, and that are toxic to human being or earth life. So these waste are called as hazardous waste. Next point is about electronic waste. Electronics waste like computer, television, telephones, mobile phones, all those waste, they contain some highly toxic chemicals, and that's why this is called as hazardous waste. Aerosols, propane on cylinder gases, caustic or cleaning agents also comes under the category of hazardous waste. Refrigerants containing appliances is also coming under the hazardous waste. Some specialty batteries like lithium, nickel, cadmium, or button cell batteries, and asbestos, all are coming under the characteristic of category of hazardous waste. Means those waste that is ignitable, that can catches fire easily, and toxic or reactive, or that can cause corrosion, corrosive. So all these examples, all these wastes that has been given here in the example have these kind of characteristics. Means it may be highly ignitable, it can catches fire easily, or maybe toxic, or sometimes it is very reactive, sometimes it is corrosive in nature, so that they are called as hazardous waste, and this is the example for hazardous waste. Now comes to the next thing about the characteristics of hazardous waste. As we are already discussing about these kind of characteristics, means why any waste is called as hazardous waste, which characteristics if any waste will pose, then that will come under the category of hazardous waste. So any waste is considered as a hazardous waste based on the properties that make it potentially dangerous or harmful to human health or the environment. Means those waste that is have the following characteristics, and that is very much harmful to human health or environment. So if any waste will have these kind of features, then automatically that will be a very much dangerous or harmful to the human health or the environment. And it can be any form, like in solid form, liquid form, it is in gaseous form also, or some discarded unused commercial product or discarded used materials also. And waste is considered hazardous if it shows one or more some of the following characteristics. From the following characteristic, if any waste will show these kind of characteristics, that can be comes under the category of hazardous waste. So a waste is considered as hazardous waste based on the properties that make it potentially dangerous or harmful to human health or the environment. It is very much harmful to the human health or environment because they are very ignitable, like they can catch fire easily, they can cause us corrosion, or they are in toxic in nature, and sometimes they are too much reactive or explosive in nature, so that is already it is very much dangerous and harmful to human health or the environment. And sometimes it can be a liquid, solid, contain gases, or discarded unused commercial products or discarded used materials. These are the characteristics of hazardous waste, and if it will possess from any of the criteria from these things, then it comes under the category of hazardous waste. Now we'll discuss about details about all these characteristics. First one is the flammable or ignitable. It means that can catches fire easily. Catch fire easily. So the flammable or ignitable. Flammable liquids or mixture of liquids or liquids containing solids in solution of suspension, and its example is paints, varnishes, liquids, etc., but not including substances or waste otherwise classified on accounts of their dangerous characteristics, which give off flammable vapor temperature at less than 60 degrees Celsius. If it will get a temperature less than 60 degrees Celsius, then also it can catches fire easily. And they are ignitable compressed gases. It is not a liquid and is capable understand temperature and pressure of causing fire through friction, absorption of moisture, or spontaneous chemical changes. Means they are the liquid that are being capable for the like in under the standard temperature and pressure, it can cause fire through the friction. Only through the friction activity they can catches fire under a very normal temperature or pressure. And absorption of moisture or spontaneous, any little chemical change will causes easy to fire of that chemicals that are called as flammable liquids, flammable gases, and that's why this characteristics comes under the category of hazardous waste. And those element, those liquid, solid, if poses the characteristics of highly catching fire, then that are called as flammable liquid or ignitable. And it can catches fire at normally in under a normal standard temperature and pressure, or sometimes very little absorption of moisture or spontaneous chemical change in the activity of this kind of waste. That's why it comes under the category of hazardous waste characteristics. Next features of hazardous waste is the corrosive substances. Means a waste that exhibit the characteristics of corrosivity. If a representative sample of the waste has either of the following properties, means any sample of this of any waste have the following property, then that are called as corrosive property. And this, what does it mean? Means like it is aqueous and has a pH less than 2 or equal to 2 or greater than 12.5. Means Any waste that have pH less than 2 or equals to 2. If less than 2 or equal to 2, or more than 2, or more, means more than 12.5, then that kind of chemical is called as very much corrosive, because this is highly, means more basic. They have the characteristics of either it is more basic or more acidic, and it is a liquid that can corrode high grade steel also, and that has 6.35 per year at a test temperature of 55 degrees Celsius. Means that substance will be very highly corrosive substance, and it can corrode steel also, because corroding a steel is very much tough, and high grade steel, it can corrode, and it is not a aqueous, and when it mixed with the equivalent weight of water produces a solution having a pH less than or equal to 2 or greater than or equal to 12.5. It is an aqueous, and when it will be mixed with the equivalent weight of water, it will produce a solution that is having a pH less than equal or greater than 2 or equals to 12.5. Means that will make any chemical, anything, very much corrosive, because they are highly reactive, because they have very high, means have very strong pH scale, pH. That's why they can corrode any steel, any substance very easily. So these kind of things are very much dangerous for the human health and human life. Now comes to the next characteristics, that is about the toxic, means toxicity in nature, toxic nature. If any waste will possess toxic nature, then that will come under the characteristics of hazardous waste. And the concentration of waste constituted listed in class A and class B of this waste management schedule are equal to or more than the permissible limit prescribed there. Means they are called as toxic, because then it has an acute oral of LD50 less than 2500 milligram per kilometer per kilogram. Means if it will taken as a, in case of LD50, means in a little dose, that can cause some harmful, and like that it has an acute dermal of LD50 less than 4300 milligram per kilogram. So that waste is called as toxic waste. Means that can be toxic in that much little amount, so that it will be very much toxic. That's why it is called as hazardous waste. And next is the highly reactive or highly explosive. Means a waste exhibit the characteristics of reactivity if a representative sample of the waste has any of the following properties. So any waste has exhibit the characteristics of reactivity. If any sample will have these kind of property, then that kind of waste is called as highly reactive waste or highly explosive waste. So first one is that it is normally unstable and readily undergo violent change during detonating. It is normally unstable and readily undergoes violent change. Normally it is very much unstable and readily undergoes violent change, and it reacts violently with water or forms potentially explosive mixture with water. So when mixed with water, it generates toxic gases, vapor or fumes in a quantity sufficient to present a danger to human health or the environment. That's why they are called as reactive gases and reactive chemicals. So normally unstable and readily undergoes violent change without detonating. It reacts violently with water or form potentially explosive mixture with water. When mixed with water, it generates toxic gases, vapor or fumes in a quantity sufficient to present a danger to human health or the environment. And now comes to the classification of hazardous waste. Hazardous waste can be classified like this: radioactive waste, chemicals, some chemicals is there, biomedical waste, flammable waste. So due to these characteristics, that waste can again become like some radioactive waste will have these kind of properties. So it comes under the category of hazardous waste. Like that, some chemicals is having the properties like this. So it will come under the characteristics of hazardous waste, like this biomedical waste, and some flammable waste is also there. Radioactive waste are the waste that have emitting ionizing radiation or radioactive in nature. Such substances are hazardous because prolonged exposure to radiation often results in the damage to living organism. Means radioactive substances like uranium-235 or uranium-236, these are very dangerous radioactive substances that will emit ionizing radiation and are radioactive in nature. So such substances are hazardous because prolonged exposure to radiation sometimes results in the damage to the living organisms. That's why it is very much dangerous, and they emit some ionizing radiation, and that radiation will causes skin cancer, that will causes mutation to the human skin. Next is the chemicals, means those chemicals that are synthetic, organic, inorganic metals, salt, acid and bases, and flammables and explosive. So these chemicals will also come under the category of hazardous waste. An example of these are some synthetic organics, inorganic metals, as salts, acid and bases, and flammables and explosive liquids. And these are the, I think, pesticides, herbicides will also come under this chemical category. Next one is the biomedical waste. The principal source of hazardous biomedical waste are hospitals and biological research facilities. Biomedical waste are the waste of human tissue, syringe, and all those waste that is related with the anatomical, biomedical, or hospitals, that can be generated from the biomedicals or hospitals. And these biological waste are hospital and biological research facilities. And next is the flammable waste. These waste may be liquid, gases or solid, but most often they are liquid. An example of these are the organic solvents, oil, plasticizers and organic sludges. These are the example of this flammable waste. Now comes to the basics of this hazardous waste management rule. So hazardous waste management rule are notified to ensuring safe handling, generation, processing, treatment, packaging, storage, transportation and use, reprocessing, collection, conversion and offering for sale, and then destruction and disposal of hazardous waste. Means this hazardous waste management rule will cover all the area related with this hazardous waste. First one is the handling of the waste, then generation, then processing, treatment, packages, and then storage of the waste, transportation of the waste, use, reprocessing of, collection, conversion and offering for sale, destruction and disposal of hazardous waste. So that all, if they will possess all the characteristics, that will be called as hazardous waste management rule. This hazardous waste management rule has been made for the safe handling of hazardous waste, safe generation, it's a processing, it's a treatment, and after that packaging of hazardous waste, then storage of this waste, transportation, use, reprocessing, collection, conversion and offering for sale, and then again destruction and disposal of hazardous waste. And this rule came into effect from the year 1989, as we have already discussed, and has been amended in the year 2000-2003, and final notification comes under this hazardous management rule is the Management and Transboundary Movement Rules 2008. Like this is there. Now the some of the salient features of this hazardous management and handling rule, that is of 1989. So this has been made for this factory occupier. So any occupier of any factory or premises are defined under the Rule 3(1) of and Section 1 and paragraph 21 of the rule. That means a person who has control over the affair of factories or the premises, and including the relation to any hazardous and other waste, the person in possession of the hazardous or other waste, it is responsibility of the occupier for safe and environmentally sound management of hazardous and other waste, as stipulated under Rule 4 of the Hazardous Waste Management Rule 2016. So it is a responsibility of the occupier or of the person they are producing this waste, and it is their responsibility of the safe and environment sound management of hazardous waste and other waste stipulated under this rule of Hazardous Waste Management Rule 2016. So it is their responsibility to occupy it, to handle it safe, to manage it safely, for its collection, storage, transportation, and then its storage into a safe place. That all are the responsibility of the occupier of any factory or premises. And this has been defined under Rule 3 of this Hazardous Waste Management and Handling Rule 1989. Now next point is about that this rule has been made this hazardous waste management rule has been made For the next point is about the storage requirement. Hazardous waste management rule has been made for the pollution prevention and then waste minimization. And next is the 3R concept: reuse, recycle, and recovery. Utilization of the waste, including co-processing of hazardous waste in other industries as raw material or as a fuel substitute. Next is about efficient treatment and safe disposal of hazardous waste. Hazardous waste and other waste shall be sent or sold to an authorized actual user or disposed in an authorized disposal facility. So that's why this hazardous waste management rule has been made. And next point is the storage of this kind of hazardous waste management. So the occupier of the facility that are generating this hazardous waste and other waste may store for a period of not more than 90 days, and maximum quantity is about 10 tons. So any occupier or any person who is generating this hazardous waste that cannot store this hazardous waste more than 90 days, and the maximum quantity of 10 tons per year, 10 tons. And like this small generator up to tons per annum up to 180 days of their annual capacity. Means it depends upon also their annual generator of this hazardous waste kind of things. And they have given provision to they can save up to 10 tons per annum up to 180 days of their annual capacity. So this is the storage requirement of this hazardous management rule. That provision has been given under this rule, that any person who, any occupier or any factory, they have generating this hazardous waste, they can store a period of not more than 90 days and maximum quantity of 10 tons of waste at a place. Like this, if the company is a small generator, up to 180 days of their annual capacity, they cannot generate or they cannot store this hazardous waste in a small area of requirement. So these are the storage requirement that has been discussed under this act. And next point is about some labeling is also important. For the occupier must mark a hazardous waste containers with a label as specified in the Form 8 of Appendix E. Means Form 8 is there in Appendix E. Any occupier should have given a label to the waste of the rules with fluorescent yellow color background written in red work as hazardous waste or handling with care in Hindi, English, either their language is there. So this is the very important thing about the hazardous waste, like labeling requirement is very much important, because any person who are the occupier of this hazardous waste, they must mark a yellow color fluorescent color labeling on the storage area, like that is hazardous waste or handle with care in any color, because that is a labeling is too much important in case of this hazardous waste management rule. Next is about the hazardous waste accumulation or storage area. Means which type of area is important to store this hazardous waste management. So it can be put in a large establishment where a number of waste are being generated. An area can be designated as a storage area, as a central hazardous waste accumulation area. So in any large establishment where a number of waste has been being generated, and area be designated as a storage area, that is known as central hazardous waste accumulator area. And the containers must be labeled with the appropriate hazardous waste level. All the containers has been labeled properly with the hazardous waste level. There must be appropriate signature identifying the area as hazardous waste storage or no smoking zone also, because sometimes smoking will, due to this smoking, any waste can catch fire easily, or they will be reactive in the atmosphere. So that is very much dangerous. That's why handling, storage and accumulation of hazardous waste is very much should be careful, because any little mistake will causes too many harms due to this hazardous waste. That's why government has made provision for its proper and safe management of this hazardous waste. Safe handling, management, transportation, all are very much important in case of the person who are handling this hazardous waste. And all companies or all small generators, all small little plants that are producing the hazardous waste, it is their responsibility to take care of the hazardous waste in a good manner. That's why they will not create any kind of hazardous to the society. Now, next thing is about the Basel Convention. A convention has been made for this for the hazardous waste movement. So, Basel Convention is a control of transboundary movement of waste and their disposal in 1989. And after this Basel Convention, that hazardous waste management and handling rule come into force. And some conference of parties (COP) of the Basel Agreement in 2006, they regulated the e-waste movement also. E-waste is also coming under the category of hazardous waste because e-waste is also very much dangerous waste. And that in this Basel Convention, e-waste export to the developing countries is governed by the brute global economics, and the law enforcement of environmental and occupational regulation is important, and they have been given provision for the enforcement of environmental and occupational regulation. And next is about the low labor cost should be there in case of handling of this kind of hazardous waste management, hazardous waste. And a meeting also undertook to eliminate two toxic chemical groups like dichlorofol and perfluorotanic acids plus related groups compound. The latter they has been used in a wide variety of industrial and domestic application, including non-stick cookware and food processing equipments, as well as carpets and papers and crafts and papers and carpets. Now, next is this is the conclusion about that the hazardous waste can create an immediate health hazard to anyone who may come into the contact with them. This can be a chemical byproduct or contaminated solid or anything in between. So that's why this hazardous waste is very much dangerous waste, and it can causes health hazard to any person who are coming in contact with them, and there can be chemical byproduct or contaminated solid or anything in between. So proper and swift disposal is must, and hazardous waste can causes harm to the environment as well. Improper disposal of hazardous waste can even affect human via drinking water and food consumption also. That's why the proper handling and the proper management and handling of hazardous waste is very important, because it can causes very much dangerous to the human beings or the person who are handling this hazardous waste. So if government has made provision under this hazardous waste management and handling rule, like any country, any industry who are the generator of this hazardous waste, first of all they have to do the proper handling of this hazardous waste, then they will do the proper storage of this hazardous waste. After that, labeling on that waste is very important. And next point is about the transportation of this hazardous waste, and then accumulation and storage of this hazardous waste, because all these steps that are related with the management and handling of hazardous waste is very much important, and for the safety of the person, those who are handling, and for the society also. So this is all about the hazardous waste. So improper disposal of any hazardous waste can affect human body or drinking water and food consumption also. Now this is about the hazardous waste. Thank you for today's lecture. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.